Hello, this is Bad Vibes. I just want to say thank you. I just hit 500 subs literally 5 minutes ago, so thank you all. Also, if you have any true stories or realistic fiction that you have written and you want me to read it, send it to my email. The link will be below as well. Today's stories are the second part of my Home Alone series, so sit back, relax, and enjoy. This happened to me last Thursday, and I can't stop thinking about it. I'll start this story by saying I'm a 30-year-old female who lives with my fiance and our 2 dogs. They are both huskies. One is 2, and the other is 4 months old. My huskies are not guard dogs to save their life. They do not bark or howl. These dogs just love people so much. My Bill and friends have walked in on multiple occasions and the dogs have not made a peep. So anyway, dark out and I'm home alone. My fiance had a hockey game and I'm in the bathroom with the door closed and the blow dryer going, so I can't really hear anything around me. That is, until I hear one of the dogs howl. I stop the blow dryer and listen, thinking the dogs are fighting again. Then I hear a faint knock and the dogs start to go apeshit, barking, howling, and jumping into the bay window, so bad I thought they might break it. I'm thinking, what the hell is making them go so crazy like that? Maybe a dog or a skunk? I look out my bathroom window as it was the closest view to the front door from me. Well, lo and behold, there's 2 black men in hoodies standing at the front door. They start knocking louder, and at this time my 2-year-old husky jumps from the bay window to the front door and starts to growl and ramming his body into the door. As the dogs jump into the door, one of the men jumps back startled, looks at the other guy, and they just walk away. I called my fiance to get home ASAP. I watched them walk down the road. They weren't selling anything, as they didn't stop at any other houses. Creeped out, and I still am. Thank God for my crazy dogs. Scary men at my door. Let's not meet again. I must have been around 8 years old when this happened, and my sister was either 12 or 13. We lived in a tiny house we called the shack that our mom moved us into after splitting up with our father. My sister and I shared a tiny bedroom, but one perk about the house was it had a huge backyard with a large above ground pool and a deck that we could also play on. We had a big privacy fence, and being the nosy little kid I was, I'd like to climb on some of the wooden boards of the fence and check out the neighbors. I recognized the 2 little boys that lived in the house next to us because they went to my school. I made a habit every day to climb my side of the fence and hang around to talk to them. They had an uncle named Randy who was probably in his mid-20s or 30s, and he would usually be in the backyard doing some housework, so I know him as well. And both me and my sister would hang on the fence and chat with them most days. The conversations were always innocent, and he seems like a nice guy. Now looking back, I could see that there were some red flags about him. I remember one time, he had a basketball and accidentally threw it over our fence. We offered to grab it for him, but he insisted he could get it himself and hopped over the fence with ease. We thought nothing of it at the time, but I imagine this was to test how easily and fast he could scale the fence. One day in passing, my sister mentioned to him that my mom works a night shift and therefore it was just the 2 of us alone. Well, that was all he needed to hear. Shortly after that, it happened. I woke up one night to the sound of my sister crying. We shared the bunk bed, me on the bottom, and when I stood up, she was out of the bed leaning against the wall on the phone crying. I asked her what was wrong, but she assured me that everything was fine and to go back to sleep, so I did. It wasn't until the next day I learned what happened. Apparently, in the middle of the night when our mom was away at work, Randy jumped over the fence and tried to break in. He started banging on the bedroom window, telling my sister to let him in. She refused, but he wouldn't take no for an answer. He started walking around the entire house, banging on the window, yelling for her to let him in, and trying all the doors. That's when she got out of bed and called 911, and I woke up. I have no idea how I managed to sleep through all the commotion, but she tells me he was banging on our windows right by our bed, very loud, but I guess you get to sleep like you're dead when you're little. Of course, by the time the cops arrived, all he had to do was jump over his fence in 10 seconds and he would be back in his yard. They knocked on his door, but he denied it, so the police said there's nothing they could really do. We were shaken by the incident, of course, but my mom wasn't able to change her work schedule, so she started having us stay at our dad's at night. A few years passed without incident, and we assumed everything was fine. I had stopped talking to the boys next door. Then it happened again, and guess who slept through the entire thing again? My sister was a couple years older now, and had a group of her friends over for a sleepover that night. We had a sliding glass door to the backyard right next to where they were sitting. The door had those typical vertical blinds, except weeks earlier one of them had broken, and we couldn't get it to stay back up no matter what, so there was a little gap in the blinds. Anyway, the girls are sitting there on the couch playing board games when my sister's friend suddenly turns rigid. She said, "Don't freak out, but there's a guy standing at your sliding glass door." They all turn around, and there was Randy again, his face pressed up to the glass where there was a gap between the blinds, just watching them all. Naturally, everyone freaked out, and 911 was called. And just like last time, he jumped over the fence, and the cops said they couldn't prove anything, even though they described what he was wearing, and he answered the door in the same outfit when the police questioned him. That was the last straw. We moved out of the house and got a restraining order against him. He didn't show up to court that day, and the judge automatically granted it to us. Never saw him again. Last time I checked, I looked him up online, and he is currently in prison for a bunch of random charges, though none of them have anything to do with sexual molestation against minors. This was maybe 5 years ago. I lived in an old apartment building downtown. I was alone at home, and my roommate was abroad. I woke up at 3 a.m. to the sound of someone ringing my doorbell. I wasn't expecting anyone, so I just ignored it. Then I heard a few more doorbell rings, then a buzz. The door outside was open and slammed shut. I lived on the 3rd floor, and you could easily hear what went on in the hallway. Now I hear heavy steps, very slow, and an uncomfortably low knock on my door. I jump out of bed and just stand right next to the door. Then someone grabs the doorknob and turns it. It's locked. I don't want him to know that I'm in there, because I just don't know who this is or what state of mind they're in. So I just stand there, as still as possible, and wait for him to leave or try to break in. For a few minutes, nothing. Then I hear snoring. That's when I called the police. I told them that someone tried to get into my place and I was sleeping right next to the door. Then I wait. Eventually I hear them getting up very slowly and making his way back down. I hear him open the door, and I go to the window to see the man in a white scarf stumbling away. At this point it was 4:30, and I had to get up at 9. I had a beer to calm my nerves, and then go back to sleep. The next morning when I leave for work, the hallway smells of an awful stink. Dude shat on the floor and tried to cover it up with newspapers, and then someone, hopefully him, stepped on it. I'm so happy I didn't meet this person. I was around 10 or 11 when this happened, and I was home alone. The doorbell rang when I was watching TV, so I hastily moved away from the bowl of cereal and got up to answer. It was the mailman, who said he had a package, but it was so big that he needed help carrying it. Something felt off about him. He wasn't wearing a uniform. He had on a dirty white shirt and jeans. I asked him where his truck was because I didn't see it parked out front, and he said it's around the corner, and to just follow him out and grab my parcel. He kept telling me to go with him, but I politely said I wasn't feeling well and that we would just get our mail from the post office. He said how much more of a hassle that would be, and it would be easier just to go out there with him. I said I had to get my shoes on from upstairs, and he waited outside. I locked the door and bolted upstairs, closing all the windows. I called my mom and explained everything. The man was still outside, and he shouted to me, asking if I got in my shoes on. I replied that my mom was coming because she was much stronger than me and could help carry the package. Once I said that, finally bolted. They never caught him, and I hope he never lured any other kids and tricked them into getting into his nearby van. Dear fake creepy mailman, let's not meet again. To start this off, we were both female, about 11 and 13. One day my older sister and I were home because both of us had the day off from school. while our mom had to go into work. This left us home alone, which wasn't really unusual. Some context as to the layout of the house at the time. It was positioned on a hill, so one side of our rec room had a sliding glass door to the backyard, while the other side of the room had a high window that was right on ground level. It was also a split-level house, so the front door was on the landing of the stairs. We were downstairs watching TV when out of the corner of my eye, I saw someone pass the sliding glass door through the vertical blinds. I told my sister, but in an effort not to panic. Just then, we saw the door move as if someone was trying to pull the door open. We both ducked down and crept to the stairs. We were on our hands and knees because our front door had windows. My sister finally bolted the second half of the stairs and into the kitchen. This left me right under the door as the person tried to open it. When the coast was clear, I sprinted up the stairs to join my sister in the kitchen, huddling away from the window. I turned to find my sister with a huge kitchen knife, ready to attack the potential intruder. I stifled my laughter at the hilarious visual, long enough to call my friend's dad, who worked from home next door. While we waited, we could hear the person trying to open doors all around the house. Thank God my sister is paranoid and locks every door all the time. Our neighbor showed up with a baseball bat in hand, but he said he had seen a white van drive away. I called my mother and she began to contact the company that came to our house, Terminix, gardeners, etc. Turns out it was a guy from Terminix who was soon fired after this incident. There was no reason for him to try to come to our house, especially without trying to ring the doorbell first. I hope you enjoyed these stories. If you did, please hit that like button and make sure you're subscribed. Also down below, if you have a suggestion of the types of stories you would like me to read in the future, for example, Home Alone, Night Shift, etc., stuff like that, just let me know what you want to hear and I'll put it together. Thank you again for helping us hit 500 subscribers. It means a lot. Till next time.